So, great. So look, today we welcome Dan Williams onto the podcast. Dan is the managing director of Orean Personal Care, a premium skincare and hair care manufacturer from development to finished product. When I started this podcast, I had a number of targeted guests, and Dan, you're actually literally at the top of that list. Someone actually told me to have a list of people who you're working with, a list of people who you want to get onto a podcast, and the stuff you do online is great. So you were number one on the target. So Dan's taken Orean from a £3 million to I believe a £20 million turnover business. 30, but there you go. In a Telegraph list of 50 most ambitious leaders in 2020. He's got his own podcast called Pocket Mentors, and he's even an Ironman competitor, which we'll have a chat through soon. So it goes out saying thank you very much. So yeah, welcome. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's quite the intro, isn't it?
Yeah, no pressure. So look, I'll get into all that, and we'll have a good chat around it. But I'd like to kick it off with the same sort of question. So what does it mean to you, Dan, to be a leader? Would you say?
It's quite funny because I genuinely not ever put myself down as being a leader, which is really odd because I think I've never been the best footballer or anything like that. But every football team that I played for, from like the moment I broke into like the adult village football team as a kid, I've ended up being the captain of those football teams. It's not through ability, that's for sure. It's just I was always the most vocal and energetic one on the pitch, and I think that's pretty much what I've brought to this role. I'm here, there, and everywhere. I'm always chatting, but one thing I like doing, and again, it probably does go back to the whole football, like encouraging people to be themselves, showcase what they're about. Everyone in this business, Orean, is way more talented in all their individual areas, way more than me. So I'm just basically facilitating it. The big for me is just trying to create that real safe space and to give people the room to grow and just develop in the way they are. Some push themselves to grow and develop organically. Some are a bit more reserved. So I'm trying to encourage them to grow and fulfill their potential that I see in them as well. Sometimes I made a mistake thinking that everyone just wants to be super driven and do it. One thing I probably learned is that not everyone really is interested in doing that, or they're not ready for it yet. So just giving people a space to either be themselves or to grow. I think that's probably the best thing or the most exciting thing I get out of the whole leadership thing.
I think what's interesting about that is, I think if people are ever lost in a club, or like say football club or the job, they look for leaders, don't they, to help them, inspire them. And it's not always something that you say to them. It's something you do. It's just you're there to support them and grow. And that's why I get that you're probably that person in the business that wherever someone's lost, okay, and you'll guide them to where they need to be, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when I was at the previous manufacturer before joining Orean, a vacancy came up for a commercial director role at that point, and it's odd because I would genuinely say I've never been consciously super driven or anything like that, but all I've wanted to do ever in any role that I've been in or any club that I just want to just do the best that I possibly be, the best person that I can be without being super driven, if that makes sense. Yeah. And the vacancy wasn't advertised. They brought someone in, and it was only then I started hearing rumblings around the business, which was other people saying, "Why hasn't Dan got this job? He should have had this one." Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But it just wasn't to be, and I wasn't, and I was always against it. I was just like, I'm not ready for that kind of role. I don't think that's me. I don't like being the one on stage, and I always felt that. As a leader, you've got to be the one up, like a Steve Jobs or that kind of thing, like talking to the masses and stuff like that. And I don't think that's really me. I like encouraging and motivating. I think that's.
I agree with that massively, because I think I can resonate with that, because that's it. I think people presume that if you're the leader, you love the center of attention. You want to be a leader because you want to be number one. And I don't think most leaders I meet or good leaders I meet, that isn't the case at all. Really.
Yeah, actually, if anyone listens to this who does know me, and they'll say, Dan always likes to be the centre of attention. Yeah. It's like, when it's on my terms, I don't mind being, I don't mind being like the office clown. I don't mind if I want to go up on stage and just give someone talk about someone highly about their birthday, or present them something. But it's, if if someone was to say, right, we want you up on stage to talk about this for an hour, here's your subject, like that would just fill me with dread, and I don't like that sort of stuff. But if it's something I'm comfortable with doing, I don't mind doing it so much. But it's it's a hard one to articulate, I think.
To give an award out for the first time I've done anything like that, there's maybe 200-300 people in the room. All I do is stand up and give an award out and to say nothing, but that filled me more dread than anything I've done in a long time. I just, for whatever reason, just because 300 people looking at me, it's bizarre.
Well, and that's it. But if you're asked to do it again, this is when it doesn't feel comfortable for me. If I was at an event and people, I don't know, right here, this one will probably appeal or resonate with so many people. The best man speech is the most horrific thing in the world, unless you're just one of those people that absolutely just love doing that sort of stuff. The thought of I am the best man, I have to deliver it, would make me feel nauseous. If I was listening to some mates talking about one of my mates who I respect greatly, love him to bits and stuff like that, and everything was going on, then actually I got the urge to stand up and tap a glass and actually say a few words. That's better. I think that's probably the best way of saying it.
You say it's on your terms. It's completely. Excellent. Well, look, what I want to do, if it's all right with you, Danny, is take you right back to sort of day one. I guess the bulk of people I tend to have on this podcast so far, people sort of stereotypical manufacturing routes from sort of apprenticeship or engineering degrees and so forth. I know your journey's been a bit different, which I'm really interested in. So I guess day one, I guess what sort of led you to where you are briefly now, if that makes sense, and the route. I'm quite keen on that. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I try and keep it super brief. So I grew up in a little village community down in Kent. My mum and dad separated. My mum moved in with a guy that owned a pub, so we were in the hub of the village, so everyone knew everything you're up to as a kid. It was horrific actually as a child. You couldn't get away with anything because everyone knows who you are and who your parents are. Moved out of home really young, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. No one in my family had ever been to uni, so I thought, I'll go to university, do sports science. Had to choose another subject to go with it. Jerry Maguire had been released at the time, so I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll be Jerry Maguire and be a sports promoter. So I chose to do marketing. Got in with the wrong crowd at uni, basically spent my time drinking. Passed the first year, got into a load of debt, thought maybe academia is not for me. So I really wasn't applying myself. So then I decided to do something else. So then I was just bumming around Southeast Kent, couldn't hold down a job. It was a bit of a nightmare. Ongoing jokes with my mates that I couldn't do anything. A girlfriend who I was with at the time, she was working in a call centre. I didn't want to work in a call centre, but I really needed a job. So I asked what other jobs would go in. There was one on a network help desk. So you had to understand how telecoms worked and carriers and things like that. So she said, but you haven't got any qualifications and you don't know how that works. So I spent a little bit of time reading some books and understanding it, went for an interview, got the job. Actually quite enjoyed it. Then I was promoted to manage that team, be the senior in that team after 6 months. And then I got an opportunity so it was in Ramsgate, the London office wanted me to go and work there, basically be an account manager for some big accounts I had, like the likes of Sony and some other big European players. So I took that opportunity and moved up to London. So I was working in telecoms, working in Docklands, I was commuting every day. Then I thought, can't keep commuting. It was getting exhausting. That was before there was the quick train. So it was taking an hour and a half to get into London, an hour and a half back. And all I wanted to do was earn more money so I could go out with my friends at the weekend. So I was getting back on a Thursday night at 9 p.m. and meeting them down the club straight away and going out, and then trying to wake up on a Friday. It was a bit of a nightmare, really. And then that job was going really well. And then one of the guys I grew up with down in Kent, he was working for a hair care brand called Charles Worthington in London. And he then got a job and worked at a manufacturer in Yorkshire, the guys that were making those products. So he was the commercial manager for that. And so he was responsible for a team of account managers. the football team we were playing for at the time, he actually came up to me and went, "Do you know what? I've got a really challenging account. Do you want to come and work for me?" I went, "You have no idea if I'm any good at my job." No one. I was all the guys that I played football with. I was begging for a job like 12 months earlier, but they were like, "I'm not going to touch Dan." Like, he's just not holding down the job. So I was like, "Why on earth do you think I can do this for you?" And he went, "Well, you tell me." I mean, I could tell you anything. And he went, "Well, I'm going to take a punt on it. I trust you. I think you tell me the truth." And I was like, "Okay, fair enough." So we packed all my things into the back of his Mini. He didn't have a lot of stuff. And then I moved up with him.
Nice.
That was at Harmer Personal Care 20 years ago now. And he wasn't there for much longer once I started. I think he was there for about 6 or 9 months. He got offered another job at Boots. I was living with him. It was like it was going to be like men behaving badly, little bachelor pad. The first night he went out, he met his wife.
That was it.
So we ended up moving in with her together for a little bit, and that really wasn't for me either. I felt like it was really like cramping their style. So he left that company. Then I had a decision to make. Do I want to stay in Yorkshire or do I want to move back? I thought, I'm up here now, I quite like it. We'll just see it out. And then I stayed there and just developed through that company, really. Tried different roles within there. Account management was definitely my thing. And then just for the next 10 years, stayed there while it was Harmer Personal Care. That went into administration and became Hallam Beauty. We grew that business, I think, from around 8 to 30. Lose track, really. And then that was bought by a Swiss company called Mabel. So I stayed there and became the senior commercial manager / account manager. And it was then, after being there 10 years, I met a guy when I first joined Harmer Personal Care called Martin Crossley. And then I met someone else called Laura Kirkbride. When Harmer Personal Care went into administration initially, they joined Orean at that point. So like 15 years ago, that was. Martin then started, we kept in touch, and Martin then started asking me if I wanted to grab a lunch. And I was like, yeah, I haven't spoken to you for ages, it'd be worth it. And I had no idea he was secretly courting me.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And then he introduced me to Sean, who was the managing director of Orean at the time. And then they offered me the job as sales director 10 years ago now. And then joined Orean. That was when it was about 3.6 million turnover business. We were at a different premises then. One of our customers once described it as rustic. And as a manufacturer, you don't really want your manufacturing operation to be described as rustic, that's for sure. Yeah. It's not like the best selling point. And then we moved premises and we just started to grow from there. We honed in on the strategy. We wanted to stick to knowing what we're good at, what we're passionate about, and what we're experts in. Yeah. Getting everyone buying into that, working with the right accounts and building great relationships. And then we've just gone from strength to strength. And then 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to take over as managing director, and that's kind of where I'm at now.
Nice.
So that's a whistle stop.
It's a really interesting journey. It's an honest journey. Do you know what I mean? In that sense as well, because what's really interesting, I mean, what would you say? How do you go from where you were in regard to just enjoying life, I guess, with probably not much vision in terms of this is exactly what I want to do, to being where you are now? And I guess you'll probably play it down, but being somewhere which is voted a couple of years ago into was it most ambitious leaders 2020. That's do you know what I mean? I guess if someone said that to you 30 years ago, you'd have probably gone this off. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I would have done.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what
I don't think anyone in my family ever picked up the Telegraph until that moment.
Yeah. Was it transition, or was it a trigger where you just weren't passionate enough about what you were doing, and then you were? What do you think was the catalyst there?
There was definitely a point when I was living up here and found myself in a house, and the guy that I was living with, actually, it probably goes back to before that in Ramsgate. When I got the opportunity to work in the call centre environment, not the call centre part, but the other part, when I got offered the job in London, the managing director at the time, Gail Stocken, actually, I was really honest with and said, look, I lied really in my interview about getting this job. She backed me anyway and just said, thanks for your honesty. That was nice. So suddenly I gave me a bit of a confidence boost on that side. Then when I got the job in London, I suddenly started realising, actually, this account management relationship bit really does resonate with me. And that, I think that comes back to the whole growing up in a pub, like seeing your parents working people and being around people. Although saying that, me and my sister are absolute polar opposites. She's borderline socially inept, and I'm like a bit more outgoing. But I think there was definitely a point when I moved up here. Then I was in a house living with a guy that it wasn't the greatest of environments. His social life was a little bit different to mine, and I remember laying in bed. And I phoned up my mum. I was like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. She'll just make a decision if you want to come back or not. And I was like, I don't want to actually. I've always said that I won't go back. And at that point, although I was kind of on a career path, I wasn't playing football. I wasn't into. Well, I've always been into sports, but I wasn't doing anything. Yeah. I was basically drinking at weekends, doing other stuff you shouldn't be doing, and just bumming. And like going through the motions basically. And then it was literally one day I was just like, oh, I've had enough of this. And then I met one guy down the pub, was chatting, does he know a football team? Yes, he does. Joined a football team, got to know this group of lads, and suddenly it was just a difference from there. Everything just started falling into place for me, to be honest. It was I still wasn't super driven, but I want to really do a good job. And I didn't want to being an account manager, I didn't want to let my customers down. So I suppose I never actually sat down and like wrote down what my key values were. Yeah. But one was actually, I want to be reliable. I want people to be able to rely on me, and I'm going to deliver and do what I say I'm going to do. So that was like a big one. Yeah. I've always been like super energetic and enthusiastic and passionate. I was like, I just want to bring that in there. I'm absolutely an eternal optimist. Like negativity, I just don't want to be around it. If I am, I'll just try and get everyone else being positive and being around it. But just started like really living by those core values, really. And I think that just changed it literally overnight. And then it just started kicking on a gear.
Yeah,
but that the Telegraph, I still to this day don't know who nominated me for that one.
That's how that works. Yeah, so I mean that must have been an amazing accolade and feeling to have that. I mean, it's huge, isn't it? If something like that, it's
I felt completely out of place when I went down there for the actual.
Right. I'm sure everyone did, isn't it? It's one of those things where you probably just presume everyone else thinks I should be here, but in reality, you actually meet these people and they're very honest and
yeah. Everyone's just like you, aren't they? So it's
one of those, isn't it? Yeah, which is nice. I think everyone's got a Boston job to some extent. So it probably sounds like you as well. It was almost of who you surround yourself by, I guess. You know, it's one of those, isn't it? As soon as you start surrounding yourself with people who were driven and probably more optimistic and positive than sort of people previously,
I'd say being. I know there's always those like the sum of the 6 people you're around and things like that, but for me, just the biggest. I don't know. I don't. I suppose I'm surrounded by people driven in different ways. The people who I respect and I'm around on like a daily basis are people that are driven more sport-wise and just from a business sense, it would just be positive people, optimistic people, not so much driven. But then in my like the social bit, if you want, with the sports that I do, I can't help but be inspired and driven and pushed by the people that I train with, race with, do all that sort of stuff with, and I think they go hand in hand, actually.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, do you find yourself taking all this into your daily management? I mean, does that come naturally, or do you sort of take stock of all the experience you've been managed by and the people you've been and try and do that with them?
No, I feel really lucky. You know, everyone screams about how important leadership culture and like the positivity bit but the culture, that bit's the bit that comes naturally to me. I really don't have to work at that bit. Yeah. So I feel really fortunate. I'm glad I'm in that situation. I'm just, a lot of people that get put into certain roles, they might be very sales dominated, and with that might come a bit of like, not selfishness, but like in a sales role, sometimes if you're driven by commission and things like that, you create in certain positions, people always create competitiveness in like sales. We don't have a sales team here. It's like account management because they're just nurtured and relationship building. But so I haven't come from that background where you compete on that sense. I haven't come from this big ops background where all I know is numbers and actually the people skills don't come naturally to me. The bit that does is just that the culture. I never, when I was offered the job as MD, I genuinely had to give it a load of thought because I was like, I don't think this is for me. I like just the building relationships externally with the brands and the customers and suppliers. I don't know if this is for me. And then as soon as I started it, I was just like, oh my, this is definitely the bit I'm good at and the bit I love doing. And the SMT that I've got around me now, our senior management team's unbelievable. They've all got their own. You couldn't have planned it any better. We've got like a team of 10. Everyone's super complimentary. Their skills just balance. Everyone knows I'm just good at pulling it all together and putting it into one big package, and that's it now. So it's I can't remember what the question was.
I think when you were saying that, I was thinking of, I've read a book recently. It's Alex Ferguson's book on management, and he talks about that, and it just triggered something there when you're talking about, you know, what does Alex Ferguson do? He's not got any actual skills himself. Do you know what I mean? He can't influence the 90 minutes, but he just puts very good people in certain positions and then leads them, inspires them to do that. And I guess it's really similar, isn't it? I guess where you just need to have a very good team and get the best out of them. He talks about he had 4 or 5 players who basically managed the club for him, but he just managed them. And it's I guess it's the same, isn't it? If you have a senior management team like that, then you know they will do the hard miles, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. We had one bit where because it's been stressful, isn't it, the past few years, and people can't help but go into their silos to some degree, and there's little bits of conflict, and like we super encourage like healthy conflict, but it was like tipping point, and people in the business look up to the SMT, you know, like they see how the relationships are forming. So we just got together as a group and we're like, guys, like this is not cool, is it? And everyone was in absolute agreement. And now we just know the importance of we have to get together socially once a month or twice a month, just so we can keep the relationships going, and everyone else sees it really healthy in the business. And but I'm just facilitating basically. I've got an eye on detail in other ways, and I dig into everyone's different bits and pieces and put it all together. But yeah, 100%. Like Val, she's our warehouse manager. She knows that inside out. I can pretend to know the warehouse better than her. Verity with HR, Martin with ops, Laura with technical, Daniel who's creative. It's like there's so many different areas that I couldn't pretend to know the areas better than them. I don't mind. I often play devil's advocate and sit on the fence and ask some challenging questions. But no, that's it really. I just try and provoke thought, I guess. That's probably it. And then inspire, like you say.
That's probably something I struggled with when I first started, because it was my business. I wanted to do everything, and I don't want to do this and that. And I thought I could do it better, but I just felt that I was used to it, and giving that power away was really, really hard. Now I'm the complete opposite. Do you know what I mean? If something happens, I'd happily delegate, because I think you come to realization that there's people who are better doing things that you're better off being a puppet master than the one who does it all. And that's trusting people and letting go of your ego, though, isn't it? Like some people can't do it because it's ego driven. I definitely I'd say, because I spent before 7 years building up the relationships with all the accounts, I was petrified at just going, right, account managers, like, this is down to you now, and now getting someone in to head up the sales. And one thing that came back was, how would you do it, Dan? I was like, well, I'm going to be honest, like, I would do it like this. Mm-hmm. How would you do it? Oh, I'll do that. I was like, no, you might have a different way of doing it. Yeah. And I think the best analogy that came back was someone once said that they'd give you the car keys and you can drive the car, and you can bump into stuff all the way, you can knock it, little crash it. I won't let you write the car off. Like, if I think you're going to make a decision that's going to put everything at jeopardy, that's one thing. But other than that, it could be like Trigger's broom. You could replace the wing mirrors, the engine, you can do whatever you want with it. Yeah, like just as long as we don't write it off. And I think that's the big thing. Like building, there was an element of a blame culture, not through anyone's fault. It's just kind of
people write emails to cover their backside and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't because we were like sacking people or anything like that back in the day. It's been one of those things that slowly just manifested. So it's just really hard. It's just trying to get out a blank culture and create this real safe space for people to feel that they've got the trust and the autonomy and the responsibility to make their own decisions and kind of live by them. We want to encourage people to make mistakes, just not repeat the same one over and over again. But it's when you learn from the mistakes you're making, don't you? So, and I've made loads.
It was exactly that, and actually, I think you're probably. I'm guessing you're probably quite similar to me, where you don't mind making them. I mean, I'll be the first to hold my hand up now and say that was a mistake. I think as soon as the leader does that, then other people are fine with doing it instead of just pretending it didn't happen and sweeping on the carpet. I think because you can't learn from it, can you?
No, absolutely. I publicly put my hands up on a LinkedIn post once that said as an SMT we'd balls up and done something, and the rest of the SMT were horrified that we publicly were. But I just thought it's the only way to the company that we can just show that we're actually taking responsibility for this, and actually it was really well received. But
yeah, nice.
It was just something I just felt really strongly about, but. That could have backfired, and I learned from that as well. When I wouldn't have done
you've got to do it, haven't you? You've got to try these things. I completely agree. I mean, changing a culture, obviously, it doesn't happen overnight. And when did you feel you started to change the culture there? Was it when you were MD, or was it run up to that when you were in the senior role you were in previously?
It was a really small team when I joined. It wasn't, and then going back to it, like the culture wasn't like terrible. Sean, who was my predecessor, he came in, he had a lot of work on his hands. There were some people that generally thought shouting and screaming was the way you get things done in a business. There's a difference between office staff and production staff, and you have to talk to them. And Sean worked tirelessly and was coaching and mentoring people to try and help out with that. So he was already doing an amazing job with it, just getting it to the stage, I think. So he was instrumental in doing that for the 7 years we were working. We had a great relationship, full of trust. And I think when Sean retired and I had the opportunity to go again, I could just like crank it up a bit further. I think the difference being I was a lot more inexperienced, so I wasn't coming at it from a view that I've kind of been there, done it, got the t-shirt. I didn't know what worked and what didn't. One of the biggest fears that I had initially was coming in and having our senior management meeting and thinking, how on earth am I going to talk to these guys? And that's changed dramatically. They present to me now, and it's a lot more inclusive. And I think just from that one change, that's just filtered through because other people are doing the same with their teams now. But no, I just piggybacked on the back of it, and it was kind of going along at like volume 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then Spinal Tap style, like cranking it up to 11. I just took it up that extra little notch, really. And it might not work for everyone, but it works for us. I think we've got a young, energetic team. We're all really, really similar with a load of differences at the same time. But yeah, it was already work in progress. I think I just ramped it up a little bit at the end.
What sort of benefit are you seeing from that? Because some companies aren't really bothered about culture. You know, some big corporate companies, they just think it's just all they look at is the P&L, and it's almost accepted that's the case, and they'll churn people out, and they'll potentially still make a lot of money. Other companies, you know, culture is number one.
Yeah.
Have you seen a direct benefit, would you say?
Yeah, you know, attrition levels have plummeted. People like being here. We definitely don't have like a them and us kind of mentality, even though it's a production. It's really like a collective. There's relationships all across the business. People go out with each other socially all the time across different departments. We have summer parties, Christmas parties. We've got a Halloween party this year. Yeah. So yeah, our attrition levels have dropped. There's some bits you can't control. We employ a number of people from Europe. If they want to go home, that's one thing you can't really control. But people aren't really leaving here just to go somewhere else. We make sure that we're paying people what they're worth and all that kind of stuff. So that's one thing. But we put a lot of value on that culture bit. The big thing was the attrition, but essentially you got what we try and nurture and grow is a couple of bits. We want by doing the culture, we want people to be attracted to come here. So we want people who work here currently to talk about us socially to their mates, to their family, and big us up, which they do. We want people when they come here to have a look around, suppliers and customers. We want people to feel it, and people say it all the time when they walk into the front door. They can feel this energy and buzz about the place, and they get asked if they're being looked after like every 5 times when they're here, and that's everyone. We've had people in our pre-weigh areas offering people drinks. It's just that, and we haven't asked anyone to ever do this. It's just kind of like people's own experiences and them doing it. So yes, I mean, it just feels that when people come here, I would say the people and the culture has been a reason why what people see and hear about Orean externally, as in what we do, attracts people to come here. When people walk around the business and see people on the line smiling in the offices, laughing and joking, that kind of makes people want to work with us. And I think that's what makes people stay, actually, and want to work with us as well. So, it's but ultimately, I genuinely just want everyone to enjoy the time they're working here. I want the people that supply us to enjoy that experience, and I want our customers to be having fun and enjoying it as well. Because although it's a big chunk of your life, isn't it, that you're doing on a weekly basis. So if you're not enjoying it, I'd happily help someone look for another job, or even look for another supplier. I genuinely want people to enjoy the experience of working with Orean as much as they can.
What's interesting, I'll be honest, is that I feel exactly the same about my business and my staff, exactly the same. And some I'll be honest with you, sometimes I almost beat myself up that I think it too much, because then my other head is, are we making enough money? Should I be more bothered about P&L and the profit side? Do I need to stop thinking so much about people's happiness? To the point where it pains me sometimes, where I've got a lot of empathy and I really feel people. Why do you think you're like that? Because I guess I've done some soul searching to think, why am I that? I'm not that way sometimes. You ever thought about it?
Why is that important to me?
Yeah.
I just genuinely think life's really short, and you want to be happy a lot of the time. And if you're having to work a 37, 40-hour week, that's a big chunk of your week to be unhappy. I don't want people to wake up on go to bed on a Sunday feeling dread, or wake up on a Monday morning full of dread that they've got to go to work. And I genuinely, from one-to-ones, and we're trying to cascade it down. If people were feeling like it, we try and find a different role with them in the business. And if it wasn't the right thing, I would genuinely haven't had to do it, but I'd proactively try and understand what it is they want to do. Why is it not working? Someone wanted to leave to go to university to do teaching.
Yeah.
We said, you don't have to leave. We can give you part-time hours. You've got some money still coming in. She stayed here a while. I know she's going to uni full-time, so we can't help with that, but we'd help and come back. But I don't think there's any other reason other than I want to be happy. Since I've been in this industry, I don't think I've ever had, in fact, since probably since I started work properly in that telecoms company, I've not had that Sunday. And I've worked or socialised, and I know a load of people that tell me about this dreaded feeling. Everyone gets stressed from time to time, don't they? But I just don't want people to have it. And I don't think there's any other. I haven't sat down to actually think about why I do think like that. It just feels crazy that people would, because you can get proper stuck. If that's the case, you could be doing it for 20 years and be unhappy 5 days a week for 20 years, running towards retirement, and
people accept that.
You look back thinking this is insanity.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I just asked the question because I guess I know a lot of recruitment owners who think quite differently to me and probably make more money. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes I think I wish I was more cutthroat than I thought, but actually still comes back to your own values, doesn't it? Every single time. And I'm exactly the same with you. I want people to, I would hate the fact someone to be sat there on a Sunday with that dread thinking, I've got.
They don't have to be mutually exclusive, do they? You don't have to. It's not one, you're creating a culture and an environment, and you're going to have to sacrifice profit.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't have to be cutthroat to make a profit.
the sugar hand in hand.
I don't think we'd be any more profitable if we were cutthroat, because attrition levels would be through the roof. You'd be really inefficient.
Yeah.
You'd be losing customers because the vibe that was going out wouldn't be a good one. You'd struggle to grow. It just feels like the right thing to do, just from a business sense and a value, ethical, moral sense, I think.
Yeah. I don't think every leader is the same like that. And actually, the reason why I connect you a long time ago is that you can see that in your staff. You can see, that you can see that on LinkedIn, and you can see that camaraderie and togetherness and that family feel that really, really shows. And I know sometimes social media is what it is, but you can't fake that. I don't think you can't fake that the stuff that people put out. You can tell it's got that family feel to it, and I think that's rare that you see that to that level, I would say.
Yeah,
honestly.
I used to always talk about it being a family feel, actually, and I changed it now to a community feel, and the reason for that is I can't remember what made me think of this, but like a family, you're together through thick and thin, aren't you? It's blood's thicker than water and all this kind of stuff, and it got me thinking, like, I mean, you're stuck with your family. Your family's what it is. You're not in a business, and I wouldn't. My sister isn't this, but if she was an absolute douchebag, I would she's always going to be my sister. I wouldn't tolerate just someone at work just being an idiot constantly to people and stuff like that, which you kind of have to in your family, don't you? If you've got that relative. You'd kind of ask them to leave, or you'd work through it and just go, this isn't working out, is it?
Yeah.
And that's why I'd go down that community route rather than the family field now. But if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. How hard was that over COVID? Because obviously, like you say, having that culture, and suddenly, I mean, how did you have to have some people in the office working remotely, or how was that all managed?
Well, we stayed in operation the whole time because we were doing hand sanitizer and personal care products. We were like key worker status. Of office staff, they were told that they could work remotely straight away, which is great, because we'd always said that we trust people to work remote anyway, and it was just a great way for those that were doubting that people would be motivated, that they can demonstrate that they were. So that worked out really well. It slowed down for a period, so we took to socially distance, we took all the factory staff's hours down to 80%. So we could have more space in the production facility, but we still paid them 100%.
Yep.
So essentially getting paid for 5 days and working 4. Office staff, they were just working normal hours and getting paid normal hours. The SMT, as a group of 10, we decided that we didn't want to have it decimated in one fell swoop. So 5 of us should work remotely, 5 should stay on site. We could mix it up. No one put their hand up for that. And then someone actually said, well, Dan, you don't manage a department directly, so you should probably be the one that works remotely. And I'm actually the one that gets energized socially. So that was really hard. But I was like, okay, fine. I ended up loitering outside my local co-op just for adult interaction. I found it really difficult. And I think people over a 12-week period saw me slowly melt down. I was just going a little bit nuts. Ended up doing an Ironman for charity in my lounge. That's how nutty that went. But I think the COVID bit, everyone really pulled together, and we still got, because we've grown during COVID, not because of hand sanitizer, actually just because all the brands that we work with have been great, and they pivoted, and they've been fortunate, and they've had great growth, and we've benefited from that. So space has become a premium. So we've got an element of remote working ongoing on a regular basis now anyway. But everyone really pulled together, which is great, actually, and they continue to do so.
Yeah, nice. No,
it's challenging.
I think most businesses did come out of it better because of that. Because, like you say, you see who's in the fight with you. You're forced to change some processes, and like you say, there's most businesses now which have more flexible working or some form of options there for people, which probably no one ever thought could ever be possible before.
Yeah, no, absolutely, completely agree with that.
I mean, I'm the same as you. I did 12 weeks, and it was torture for me. I was. I had my family there and stuff. And it was not. Looking back, it was probably the least stress I've ever been in a way, because I was just forced into this bubble of just being the family and what day, and I enjoyed it. But I'm the same. I like to bounce around and I like to put fires out and you know that's what I thrive on doing. So I found it really, really tough.
There was an ongoing joke internally because no one knew how long it was going to last, did they? And like we've worked through swine flu and bird flu before, and we were like, oh, this will be gone in a couple of months. So I was did a video and was recording and doing emails every day, and it was like, oh God, how's Dan going to thank us all for doing a good job today? And I was like, literally the brunt of all the jokes. I trying to write a different email. So I ended up contacting some customers going, help me out. Like everyone's taking the piss out of me. Can you just do a little quick video and just say thank you? And I can pull together a montage and we can share it with the team. And I genuinely thought it was going to be, hi guys, so-and-so, just want to say a big thank you for everything you're doing. And that was it. But it wasn't. We ended up getting these really long, heartfelt,
big production. Yeah,
it was unbelievable, and like that's on LinkedIn now as one of my featured posts because it was unbelievable. Like the genuine messages that were coming across from the brands that we work with, and the value that they put on the relationship was amazing. So that cut me slack for a day, and then it went back to me doing it all. But that was a really good thing that came from it. It was great, and it was great to see that all the work and effort they were putting in, and almost how it felt at the time. You know, bashing pants, thanking the NHS, putting your life on the line, all that kind of stuff. It was like, people really do are really grateful for everything we're doing, and that was quite nice for them to see.
Yeah, no, I bet 100%. But no, I mean, as I say, I mean, in regard to the turnover, I mean, in terms of 3 it's 3 to 30 million now, is that right? So is it turnover wise?
Yeah, 3.5 to 31 we did last year. Yeah,
it's massive, isn't it? I mean, was that a target when he came in, or was that just the way it happened?
No, I remember we were chatting originally because it's all about the bottom line, essentially, isn't it? But sometimes, it's easier just to give someone an idea of how you've grown.
Yeah.
So just look at the top line from that side. But luckily, we've remained as profitable throughout the whole thing. So
yeah,
that's good. But no, one of our first board meetings was like, do you think there's enough business out there? Could we ever be a double-digit company? And I was like, quite bullish, just taking over the job. I was like, yeah, of course we could. And I genuinely I think there's enough business out there, because especially now with all these indie brands that are coming out, and all the manufacturers in our industry, everyone's got different strengths and weaknesses, and a lot of them complement one another. And I'm quite lucky; I've got quite good relationships with these other manufacturers, and we often recommend other people if we're not the right fit. So that's cool. But no, it's we've never had. Of course, you pull together a budget. You might have a 5-year plan, but we've never targeted brands to work with. Everything that we work with has come through referral.
Nice.
And people coming to us. So that hasn't been by luck. That's been by design. We were essentially, when I first joined, it was a company that was winning an account, losing an account, and it was like treading water. And we were just like, if we focus all our efforts into managing our existing brands that we're working with, the ones that tick the expertise, passion, and profit box. If we really look after them, they're going to love us. And the industry is quite incestuous, so people move from a brand to a brand, and if they've had a good experience of working with you, they're going to want to work with you. If other people have, if suppliers like working with you, they're going to recommend you. So it's just that whole ecosystem, basically, and that's all it's been. And when we look back on like the 3 or 5 year plans that we've always had in place, it's uncanny how it's overlapped. But I'm involved in pretty much every induction now for every new starter, just so I can get to know people, and I like to share our strategy with people from day one, so they can understand the brands that we work with, why we're doing what we're doing. And I think that openness and transparency is great. And now, I wasn't back in the day, but goal setting is huge to me now. And I think if you can get everyone fixed on, here you go, this is what we're doing this year, not like how we're going to be drilling it to the nth degree, but I like writing down something and almost like parking it and letting it go. But if you can get everyone aligned with like what your strategy is and what you're trying to achieve, and everyone starts believing in it and pulling in the right direction, like great things come from that. And I think that's been a huge shift change over the past couple of years.
Yeah, excellent stuff. And it's obvious. Well, it seems obvious looking at the personal progression is important to you, whether that be academic, obviously undergoing the MBA, whether that be the Ironman. I mean, is that Are you someone who wants to try and keep, you mentioned before, keep bettering himself? Is that a big thing for you, or challenging yourself, I guess?
Yeah, I don't sit still very well. That's the big one. But I've got I love reading, so that's a big thing. So I constantly I've got a book with me. So if I'm on the train or if I'm in bed or in the conservatory, all that kind of stuff.
Best book?
They don't tend to be fictional. They're sorry, what was your question?
Best book, would you say? What's the biggest impact on you?
The one that had a massive change was that got me into reading initially was one called The Unbeatable Mind by Mark Devine, who's an ex-Navy SEAL. And after reading his, I then started with the meditating and yoga, and then really cranking up a load of other stuff. Yeah. And I got my ex-wife used to hound me to death to read, and I was like, I don't want to read. I don't want to read the books you're reading. Now I think I've read all the books that she's read. And
you tell her.
But that's the one that massively resonates. There's one called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. There's loads. It's like read one at the moment called Zappos about a company and its culture. Actually, that's really fascinating. But there's I don't think I could put out one book, but that's the one book that actually completely changed everything probably at that point. Yeah. But then the sitting still and meditating, I do still do that, not so much, but I found that the running and everything else I was doing with that was massive. And I train now about 18 hours a week. I've got 2 boys that keep me on my toes. I see them, despite separating with my ex-wife, we're still really good friends, and I see my boys every single day. I have them every weekend. So they get to see what I'm up to. So yeah, with the work, the training, the reading, everything else, it's just that driven. The bit with I signed up to do my first Ironman because I needed an incentive to learn to swim properly, because I thought it was a life skill, and I wanted my kids to be able to have a look at it. So I thought, I'm not going to just go to a pool and learn to swim. I'm not going to have the discipline to do it. Yeah. So in order to learn to swim properly, I'll have to sign up for something. So I hadn't done a triathlon, and I signed up to do an Ironman. I thought, I've got to be able to swim 2.4 miles now. Yeah. So I went out and bought a bike. I was always a runner, but that was it. And then got the bug, and I kept that going. Then did well in my first one. I thought, I know I'm better than this than I thought. And then had a goal to qualify for the World Championships at Ironman distance. Amazing. So I just kept going at that, really. And now you just want to get faster. Now I race with cycling teams. Yeah. But I find that with all the bits you've got going on at work, because it does get stressful, like you know that anyway, but I don't want other people at work to see me stressed. Yeah. It's bad enough if I'm quiet and I'm just busy, they think something's wrong, let alone if I'm running around stressed to the max. So no one really sees that. Yeah. But bike, if I don't do exercise on a daily basis, I just become a nightmare. Yeah. Not at work, but at home probably. Yeah. So there's something going on every single day from that. But I just think I like to grow and evolve now. I think, someone once was like, "You've changed," that phrase, "you've changed." And I read once someone said, "Well, I hope so." Like, you knew me 30 years ago. Like, if I haven't changed, there's something fundamentally wrong. So I'm definitely different to who I used to be. That's for sure. Yeah,
it's why haven't you changed? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, it's like one of those things. The reason I don't go home so much is because it drives me insane. Like, you could go back to the same pub. If I went back to the pub I grew up in burnt down, unfortunately. But if you went to the village where there was another pub, you can go and stand in the pub, and it'd be the same people telling you the same stories, standing in the same place, and I just find that exhausting. But it's great for them. Some people love that, don't they?
Exactly.
But it's not for everyone. But.
I love that, mate. Excellent. And I'll probably pick that up with it after. I think we're very interested in that. We've got a few quick fire-ish questions on we ask people. So feel free to. What's the most innovative technology or strategy you've implemented to help change your team or the business, I guess, for the better? Could be anything at all.
Innovative strategy. We did one of those personality profiles. That was amazing. So we had a day where we all stood around on the mat just to understand all the little nuances of each individual person.
Yep.
So you give each other a bit more time, but I'd say you give each other a bit more time for a couple of months while it's at the forefront of your mind.
Yep.
It's going to sound ridiculous and it's not innovative, but pushing the social side has been an absolute game changer. And that's not to say everyone has to go out and get absolutely pissed, although some of us do. But that's not groundbreaking or innovative, but that's been a game changer for us as a business. I'd say putting on a summer party, which involves team building, splitting people up into different teams where you get to know different people across different departments, making someone else the captain in the team rather than a member of the SMT. We're all on different teams. I think that's been an unbelievable game changer for us as a business, actually, from the culture side.
They're the things for me, when I really try and bang into my staff that when you're advertising a job, you're advertising a job. It's not a job spec, and you need to speak to the hiring managers to understand why people like to work there, not what skills or qualifications they need. It's not a black and white thing. And when they actually ask that question, and I say, look, throw it back to them. They say they've been there for 15 years. Why? Why do people stay? The answer they get really interesting, but they often are things like that. We have summer barbecues. Someone once said we have a present at Christmas and we have a summer barbecue where we invite the family. And I said, well, put that on the job spec. And someone applied and said, I work for a big corporate firm. They don't care who my family are. This is sort of stuff I want to work in, because I think particularly since COVID, where people have worked for big corporate firms who didn't care about them, they furloughed them and they'll speak to them in a year. The opposite has been beneficial. The companies that just looked after the staff, gave them any information they had, even when there's no information to have, and they've come out of it with much more loyalty. So I think it's things I mentioned which do change the game.
Yeah, absolutely. We, there used to be a lot of respect around the whole. I go to work to do my job, not to make friends. We've had people say that in an interview, and now it's like, that's not going to work here.
How sad is that? Yeah,
because you genuinely need everything. You're going to be reliant on so many people through relationships to get your job done.
Yeah,
that if you've got that approach, you're just going to be isolated really quickly, and it's just not going to work out. So I understand what people mean by it, so I try and explore it a little bit more, but essentially it's quite off-putting, I think, now when people say that.
Yeah, I can't completely agree. If you go back to, and it's been interesting for you, if you could go back to your first day, I guess, your first, what you classify as your proper job, what advice would you, because you've been on a journey, wouldn't you? So what advice would you give yourself, or I guess what would you change it?
Just be you. It would be the sometimes people join a business and everyone's quiet initially, I think, from day one, aren't they? Because they're trying to suss out the environment and things like that. But yeah, if you don't go into a company being yourself, soon that's going to start unraveling, because you can't keep up a pretense.
Yeah.
And I went in like that and it worked for me. But I've worked with other people before, and I was just constantly trying to get to know the person. And finally, when someone becomes themselves, everyone it's like, oh, aren't they great to be around? But initially, people are coming up with preconceived ideas about someone already because they're being really guarded. And I just think, genuinely, if you can have the confidence to go into a job and just be yourself from day one, people will get to know you and they'll respect you from that minute on. Or at least then they're going to form an opinion based on you. You don't want them to form an opinion based on someone you're trying to be, which is completely fictional, isn't it? You can't keep it up.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm passionate about management. I'm also very passionate about manufacturing, and obviously, this is why we're on there. I think manufacturing has some challenges, I would say. I mean, what do you think? How do we start to improve the future of manufacturing? I guess are Orean doing anything which is, helping that?
We're trying to, apprenticeships and things like that. We're looking at that more than ever, giving opportunities to people, upskilling. The challenge is you're always weighing up automation versus people, but we're so flexible. We're heavily reliant on the people.
Yeah.
If you can upskill, you're starting to pay people for kind of the skills they have, not just the one thing they're doing. So the Power MBA thing that I'm on with at the moment, we've opened that up. We've basically got a classroom, so we're trying to empower people in the business, because then you're having different conversations. So our whole SMT are doing it. We've opened it up to the whole business if people want to do it. Once people have done that, they can get a pay rise because they're generally thinking different and doing different things. So I don't know. I think we're seeing it as a platform to try and empower people more than anything else. But I guess that sounds a little bit idealistic. It is manufacturing. The challenge is we've got a supply chain. I think one of the big things for manufacturing is getting people to get out of this whole competitor mentality, because and it's been great actually for our industry with manufacturers. They speak now more than ever, and everyone's got that different respect for one another because people are relying on each other. If you can't get hold of materials because supply chains are challenging, you can pick up the phone and have a chat with other manufacturers in the industry. And I think that collaborative approach has been unbelievable. That's been one of the best things that have come out of the pandemic. I think that collaboration amongst your perceived competitors, I think is massive.
Yeah, completely. And actually, probably got 4 people so far on podcasts that said the exact same thing, but I had the power of networking through COVID, and then and exactly the same. You know, it was just a lifeline for us really in terms of just seeing what people are doing, and people want to help. The competition doesn't mean you're against each other all the time. You know, you can raise the sector between you. As soon as that. I completely agree.
I think that networking thing's interesting. I think what COVID did for me during that time, it made I wanted to make sure, because initially everyone had networking webinars and stuff coming out of their ears, didn't they? It's like, because everyone wanted to offer a free opportunity.
Yeah.
And Zoom fatigue was a real thing. Like everyone was on it all the time, and it was just relentless. And then it made me get a bit more and more selective. And now I used to go to events, and it was kind of like, because it was good and you could meet some people. But I now want to make sure there's definitely not. And it's not even. I've declined going to some events and doing stuff because I feel that people aren't going to get anything from me, like, and I'm not going to get anything from them. So it's I'm definitely more selective. I want to know that if I'm going to go to, I want to add value to someone, not just be a bum on a seat and go from there really. So equally, I want people to have the same, like vice versa. But I definitely feel that people are being a bit more selective about the networking events, not just going for the sake of going to a networking event.
I think exactly that. I think the traditional sit around a table at breakfast and say, here you are, you've got 5 minutes. I think that doesn't work as well now. I think it's much more.
I'm sure it's very stuffy.
Yeah, very gender driven. Now it's just open, honest, no agenda sharing. I think, and I think that's what's really working. It's completely agree. But
I think the best ones I've gone on are when people organise a walk or a charity bike ride, and like you can find yourself at different times chatting to different people, and you're sharing experiences and stuff like that, rather than exchanging business cards hoping that you might be able to sell me insurance. You know, it's more that everyone's talking about experiences they've had, and I feel that that's much more inclusive, completely genuine.
It's not, and that's always been my issue with I'm doing a bit of networking this year. It was the first time ever, because I've always thought there'd be a bit a fake, I guess, and not me. I like one-on-one stuff, but to walk in, or even now to walk in a room with coffee there, you've got an hour to network. I don't find it. I'm natural. I just find it fake. But there's stuff where there's a topic to discuss. So, like you say, it's really, really informal. It's just meeting people, and that I like that. It's just people just being people, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I like being around people. So, but I think that's why something like a walk or a ride, or even like a social, at least you know that the people that you're going to meet, there's got to be a level of mutual interest. You know, even like a sponsored 5-a-side football match, or it might be a theatre and a dinner. You're going to get common ground, aren't you? And I think that's the big thing. You want it to resonate.
We sponsored a manufacturing dinner, the one I handed the thing out, and I didn't know what it was going to be like, but it was brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Just people were having a laugh, just normal self, and it was just so different than the normal sort of scripted conversations I guess you have with people. And it was. I loved it. But great. Look, Dan, this has been great. I think loads and loads of value here for people who, lead a business, lead teams, want to understand the importance of culture and the importance of just ultimately being a good person to get the best out of someone. And I think you've shown that bags of it. So I really appreciate it. I think it's been great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
No, likewise. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah,
great.
thank you, mate.